All right, doing a little work today on a Bible memory verse song that I go live and just let you see the process between writing a song. So first, so far, I just put the song into a text file, copied and pasted exactly how I wanted it, and now I'm working on phrasing. So this is John 11:25. This happens to be NIV 84. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. So that's the verse, and we're starting from scratch. I have no demos, no nothing for this one, so I'm just going to tinker with it, and you get a feel for how I go about the songwriting process. So next to my text file, I have the program Audacity pulled up. That's where I do all my recording. It is a free program that lets me do multiple tracks. So piano layered with vocals, layered with whatever you want, as many tracks as you want. I usually throw a demo in there, especially if an idea starts to pop. I'll hit that record button and just start recording my ideas. And if something sticks, then I have a record of it. Saying that, make sure my microphone is on and my panel's on. So just messing with it. So Jesus said, let's see. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. John 11:25. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. I like that, so I'm going to go ahead and hit that record button. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. Okay, now I can't remember how I started, so that's my demo. I'm gonna go back and put in the chords that I do now remember. So I'm just typing in what I remembered. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. John, that's a D over F sharp. By the way, this is for kindergartners, so they have a smaller range. So I'm trying to be cognizant of the audience, intended audience. John 11, and I'm going to say the word verse. John 11, verse 25, do A sus to A. He who, and there's a little D over F sharp on that who. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. I'm going to resolve that chord. John 11, verse 25. Okay, I like that part. Go ahead and save my work. Now I'm going to go back and listen to the demo. Where are my headphones? Oh, they're up here. Oh, my phone's propped up on them. Let me unplug the headphones so I can hear what's going on. I can't remember how the first part went. So, just listen here. And the Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Okay, go back and do that again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me. Well, okay, let's see if I can get through the whole thing. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. So that transition to the second part, it's really quick. Let's check it again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. That's too quick. And the life. He who believes in me. I think I can sing it, but that one chord's got to go. And the life. He who believes in me. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me. Put it on the B. Believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. Okay, so now that I have it kind of solidified a little more, I'm going to go back to my demo track. And I'm not going to delete what's there yet. I'm just going to add to the end of it in case something happens between now. Sometimes my kids will come and interrupt me and I don't want to lose what I just did, but I'm going to record a more advanced demo now. So I'm just starting the track again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. So then, okay, go ahead and stop. Since that's a better demo, I'm going to delete the old one. So go ahead and select that track, delete the old one, and drag this all the way back to the beginning. Audacity is a great program if you're wanting to get into recording. Okay, go ahead and save my work in both places. So let me show you what I got here now. So I have my demo track and Audacity next to, I just use Notepad for my chord chart. I've put my chords in. Now we're going to find a tempo. So I'm just going to turn on the metronome on my piano until it matches what we just did. So here's my metronome. Jesus said to her, that's too fast, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, that one section is still problematic, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me. So we'll go a little bit slower to get that transition. That puts me at 72. So I'm gonna go ahead and type the tempo. I put it on my notepad so I know what it is. And then in Audacity, I've got a track for tempo. And I'm gonna generate a rhythm track of 72 beats per minute with 4 beats per measure. We are in 4/4 and we're in the key of D. So got that, save my work. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I will lay down the piano track. So I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone because I don't want vocals to come through. And I'm just going to do the piano. Now, when I record my piano, sometimes it maxes out the channel, so I do have to turn the piano down to about 1/3 way. And I have to put my headphones on, so let me see if I can balance my phone on something else. There we go. Okay, so I'm putting the click track in my ears is all the headphones are for. And I label everything. So in Audacity, I'm labeling that track tempo equals 72. That way, if I ever have to go back and I want to add drums or something, a sequence of drums, I know exactly what the tempo is. I've just learned to keep really good records. Now, let me turn my camera just a little bit. Okay, so now in Audacity, I'm done with that demo. I'm just going to go ahead and mute it. It's there if I forget how the song goes, like again, if my children interrupt me while I'm recording or whatnot, but right now I don't want to hear it in my ears. I simply have the click track, and I have a new track, stereo track for piano. So my headphone cord is stuck underneath the stand. There we go. Okay. So now I'm not doing vocals, just doing piano, and I line everything back up to that original click track when I'm putting stuff in. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit record. I got click, click, click in my head. Oh, no, I don't. I'm not plugged in. There's all these steps. Okay. Let me start it again and tell it to go to my headphones. I could run it through the laptop because it would work, but I can't hear as well, and I need to hear the click track over my piano playing. So it's kind of important you just have to hear really well. It's really important to hear everything well, so I like to run it through my headphones. Okay, let's see if that put it back through. Okay, we're back in my head, and I need to turn it up. Okay. Back to my piano track, back to home, record. So it's clicking in my head. 1, 2, I'm gonna make up the intro right now. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. That's my intro. Do do said to her. I'm just slightly singing along so I know where I am and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. Back to the top. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse. Okay, so I just changed it, and I'm aware of the change, and I like what I did, but I just played. Okay, let me stop this. I played it different the second time through. It's that little transition. He who believes in me will live, and the life. He who believes in me, I am the resurrection and the life. And the life. He who believes. I gotta change that. That doesn't work. Okay, I think I'm gonna put a triplet in. I am the resurrection and the life. He who and the life. He who believes in the life. He who believes in me will live in the lives. John 11 verse 25. He who believes. Okay, I had thrown in a triplet in the vocal, and I'm taking out that little transition chord. It just sounds sloppy. But that also means I'm going to go back, delete what I just did, mute the tempo track. I'm recording a new demo. So I'm not deleting the first one yet. I'm just going to record at the end and get it down before I forget it. So put my vocals back in place, get my microphone back on. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and also took out one of the chords here. I did not resolve that. Okay, I like that better. Stop, take out the old demo all together, and go ahead and save my work. New demo with the triplet, muted. I'm turning my tempo markings back on. And now that we have the adapted song, I'm going to turn my microphone off. Sometimes I forget to turn my microphone off, and then you hear me like poor singing behind the piano track. That's not a good thing. All right, back to the top with the piano recording. Got click track going in my ears. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Here's the beginning. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. We'll do this twice. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. Now we're back to the top. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. Now I gotta come up with some kind of outro. Okay, so I'm gonna let the piano ring. That way I can do a nice clean fade out that's not abrupt. Okay, go ahead and stop that. I'm gonna save my work. So in Audacity, there is an option called effect, and then volume and compression, and then loudness normalization. I always put that at -17. That's just been my go-to. And so it takes, like my piano level's kind of low, it'll boost it to -17. I do that for every single track. That's just kind of my go-to stuff. All right, now, when you record, hopefully this is helpful. Sometimes your track that you just put in is slightly off of the metronome. So I go manually in and I look at the beats of the piano on the track itself, and I'm going to line that back up to the metronome. It's usually just a millisecond of stuff, but you have to realign it. So after you record every single part, I zoom way in so I can see the beats of the piano, and I just delete a little bit at the beginning. Oops, that was too much. And then I check it. So I'm just checking the piano now to the metronome, and it matches the metronome. So you have to realign them. It's like it records it and then it goes ever so slightly off, so you got to realign it. So piano sounds good. I'm going to save that work. Next, I'm going to put in, I don't have a track for that. We'll call it the vamp here. A little melody line. So when I'm doing these scripture verses, I like to add a bit of the melody at the beginning. So if you have been working on the verse, it should trigger the words of those verses in your brain. So in this case, it was this one. The resurrection and the life. That's what I'm going to put on top of the introduction here. And if you've been working on the song, it should trigger that part in your head. It kind of gives you a little heads up what's coming. So I'm hitting record. I'm doing another track that I call the vamp. Got metronome in my head. 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. And then the song starts. Jesus said to her. Good. And then, because I added that little melodic thing at the end of the piano track, I'm going to put the same part there. And this sometimes is harder. I have to like find where it's at on the thing here. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum. Verse 12 John 11 verse 25. Okay, that's where it's at. Okay, now I know where I'm at in the song. So I just have the end of it playing in my head. 5. I am the resurrection and the life. And then the piano fades out after that. Okay, so same thing with the vamp. I'm going to do effect, volume and compression, loudness normalization to that -17 again, apply. And because I recorded it in 2 different chunks, now I'm going to join those clips. So I'm going to select that vamp track, right click on it and say join clips because I want them to be synced. And then I'm going to the top again, and this is where I'm going to realign it again with the metronome. So putting everything back in sync. So I'm just going to zoom in real close because that allows me to see the waves. I wish there was a way to flip my camera for you, but yeah, it's just a smidgen off, just a millisecond. So I can drag that track to match a little bit. Go ahead and save that work. That the vamp is way too loud, so I'm going to turn it down in proportion to the piano. And then I also like to add effects to those little opening melodic things. So I'm going to add some reverb to it. It just sounds prettier, like you're on a big open stage. I think it sounds pretty. So let's try that. I wish you could hear this. It's just clicking off. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Good. Pause that. Now, because I added this little melodic thing to the beginning of the song, I'm going to fade that track out right after it's done with that opening section, and then I'm going to mute everything on that track until it happens again. Otherwise, sometimes there's some fuzz on the track, and we're just going to take that whole section out. So I'm here. This is the last note of that opening section. I'm going to do fade, fade out. And then I'm going to mute the track until the very end. When I come back in again. So I'm just scrolling over. It's highlighting it. Highlighting, highlighting, highlighting. I must be really far zoomed in. Let me zoom out. That's taking too long. Okay, highlighting, highlighting. Control L is clear the track, and then I'm going to zoom on this opening section and do a fade in on that little melodic thing, and I'm going to listen to it here at the end, double check the metronome settings. It's behind the beat, so I need to go zoom in on that one too and also align that end track to the beat. It sounds off. Just take a little smidgen out. Let's try that. Still sounds behind. Take a little more out. Try it again. Good. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and fade out that little melodic piano track. And then while I'm here, I'm scrolled way at the end of the song. I'm going to fade out the piano too and give it a nice clean ending. About there is when my brain says the song should be over. So I'm going to trim off the end and fade out that track. Give it a nice clean fade out. Let's see if I can show you what I'm doing here. Let's see. Okay. So I've got this bit of the track selected, and I'm going to go to Effect, Fade Out. And it's just going to give this a nice clean fade in the piano part there. So far we've got a click track, Let me scroll over for us. Hope you can see. I can't see what's on the thing. So you see the piano come in here and the little melodic thing here. The next track I sometimes do is guitar. Oops. Yeah, we could add some guitar to this one, and then melody and whatnot. I always preload my tracks. So next we're going to add in some guitar. So we're going back to home. I'll grab my guitar here. It's kind of a melancholy song, but yeah, a little guitar might be nice. So make sure my metronome's on and that microphone's still off. Where's my guitar? It's back here somewhere. So I actually keep my nice guitar at work, one that would like plug into the system. And I have this old 12 string that I only keep 6 strings on because I can't stand 12 strings. And I actually found it in my parents' basement. It was actually a really cool God moment. So I felt like I was led to give away a guitar. I had heard this sermon that if you have excess, if you have more than one of something, it's because you're meant to give it away. And I thought, well, I've got 2 guitars. I had my old guitar, and then I later got a new guitar. And I left this sermon feeling guilty that I had more than one guitar, and you don't really need more than one guitar. You could probably make a case for it. Anyway, so I gave it away to a friend who was just getting into worship leading and felt so moved to give that guitar away. And then almost 24 hours later, I found this old guitar in my parents' basement, and they were like, take it. It's like, it's just been sitting down there for years. No one's using it, collecting dust. And now it has a purpose because it's my recording guitar. So it's one of those cool moments where I gave away this beautiful red guitar. Her name was Tulip. I still miss her. But it wasn't as nice of a guitar as the one I had purchased. And I had a friend who had a need for a guitar. So I felt called to give it away. Whew. It's really humid down here, so it's super out of tune. It should be a D string, but it's rosary. Oh, I have it set on ukulele. Good grief. Hold on. I was like, why is that not coming up as guitar? These little vibration tuners are awesome. However, there's so many settings on them. So it doesn't go by sound. It goes by the vibrations that come through the head of the guitar, which is kind of cool. But they have like 12 options on them. So you have to make sure you're on the right instrument. All right, let's start over. There's E6. Okay. A, D. I was turning it the wrong way. Got a little buzz in there. Don't know what that is. I don't consider guitar my primary instrument in recording, so the fact that it's a lesser guitar doesn't bother me because it's more like background rhythmic stuff. I think if I was writing a guitar song, I might be a little pickier, but okay, let's check that out. My nails are way too long. I'm gonna have to cut those too. Okay, so for this guitar, because it is just acoustic, it's not acoustic electric, I just put it up to the microphone and go that route. So again, this is where that metronome comes into play big time, because now guitar wise I want to hear that metronome over everything else. So I actually, when I'm doing the guitar, I crank the metronome up in my ears, put it really stinking loud. So go ahead and turn that metronome up in my ear. I can't see my chord chart. And I'm going down to the guitar track, hitting home. Oops, I need a pick. There's a pick. And we're going to throw down a guitar track. I have to try really hard not to sing along with this because this microphone will pick up my voice. So I mouth along, but I can't sing because I don't want any extra noise on that track. All right, recording. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. Well, that worked. I didn't hear any major anything, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my guitar back. Okay, next step is I'm going to align that guitar track back to the metronome, just like every other track. And I'm also going to do that -17 loudness normalization. Go ahead and do that first. And I'm also going to drag this track up so I can see it right next to the metronome. The metronome is so key. In my early recording days, I did not use a metronome, and I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out, but so key, because then you can go back and add stuff whenever you want. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just clean up the beginning of the track and do a nice fade in, because I was talking to you at the beginning, so I got to take that out of the track. And then I'm aligning it to that metronome. And check it out here. Oops, I got the metronome on too loud. Sounds good to me. And then this guitar rings high, so I always apply a little equalizer effects to it, and I just pull out some of those high-end tones. And I just know that I have my favorite settings saved here. I'm gonna go ahead and save all of my work. I'm gonna scroll to the very end and do a nice fade out on that guitar as well, just like we did with the piano track and the vamp track. That way you get a nice clean sound. Effect, fade out. All right, now that I got all my instruments laid down, next is the vocals. So I always know my first vocal is not going to be my best because I'm singing it through once. I always record it just in case it is my best, but it's like 99% of the time not my best. But then I go, oh, I shouldn't have breathed there, or gosh, I really need some breath. And there are some spots in this one I feel like I'm going to need a little breath planning. Like I just got to plan ahead where I'm going to breathe, and I try to make it match. Like when I go through and sing it a second time, I try to breathe at the same spot so the gaps and stuff are the same for every run. But let's go ahead and throw down some vocals. I like to stand when I sing. I just sing better. So I gotta get my mic up and adjust. Let's see, let's change the view here so you can kind of watch what's going on. Maybe you want to see me. I don't know. What's up. There's me. Yeah. Well, you can sort of see my screen a little bit there. Okay. So I've got a melody track here. I'm gonna go back to the beginning. I gotta make sure I have that metronome in my head, just not so loud. When I'm singing, I pay more attention to the piano than the metronome, but sometimes it's nice to have the metronome in the background. So I'm gonna go ahead and unmute the metronome. I've got my chord chart here. And my husband, I can hear him on the phone upstairs, which is okay. But if anybody upstairs is walking around, you can sometimes hear the creaks through the floor, and that picks up in my recording. That's not good. But he's just on the phone, so we should be okay. And I also have to be cognizant of my laundry is also down here, so I can't have the washer or the dryer running, or if the fan for the AC or heat kicks in. I also have to turn those off. Right now it's sitting pretty still, so everything's in place to do the vocals. Let's record. It's clicking off in my head. My cord's stuck on something. That's okay. All right, it's starting. This is just the introduction, and I can take off all of this speaking stuff. Here we go. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. He who believes in him will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. Okay, I've heard enough to know that was not a good rhyme. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though. So I'm really jumping between my chest voice and my head voice. And this one, it just falls in a spot in my break. So, boy, I gotta set you up there so you can see. Well, you're just not gonna see like that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute that one. I don't like it. Maybe I'll come back. Nah, I don't even need to save it. Just delete it and move on. Melody, delete. Go back to the top. I gotta function better between my chest and my head. Let's try it again. I spend way more time on vocals than anything else. All right, it's clicking in my head. Here's the introduction. Again, I can take all of this off of there. Here we go. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. He who believes in me will live. All right. So this time my microphone's just like getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. I'm like, okay, I can't fight the microphone. I love recording everything except vocals. Vocals is where I struggle. And obviously the most obvious part of the whole thing. So let's do it again. I'm just gonna delete what I did. But I was doing better switching between head and chest voice. So there's that. At least I got better at it. All right. Delete, back to the home. I always say R. R is record in Audacity. I just hit R. Record. It's clicking off in my head, and next the instruments are gonna come in. My basement's cold, that's why I wear coats down here. There's the introduction. I always hold my ear up so I can hear myself better. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. That was a clean cut. That's the one. I'm not going to redo it. I'm happy with that unless I hear something not good. So I'm going to go ahead and select, get you up close here so you can watch what I'm doing. I do have the cables to like hook up my iPhone, I think, to make it so you can hear. But so I'm selecting the melody track. Doesn't want to select it. There it goes. I'm going to go ahead and apply that volume and compression loudness normalization, my -17. That just boosts that vocal track. This is the end of it, so I'm going to trim the very end off and nicely fade it out. Effect, fading, fade out. I'm going to go to the beginning. This is me talking to you, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off all of that excess there. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum. It should show where I start singing. There's the singing there. So I'm going to highlight everything up until that point, hit Control L. That's going to go ahead and delete it all. And I'm going to apply a fade in here in case there's any fuzz on the track. It just sounds a little bit better. And now I have to align it to my metronome. I'm gonna take out a little chunk, see what that sounds like. That sounds aligned to me. Now, I have added on some things to my program. Free downloads, of course, I love free. So on this effects button here, I have an equalizer that I have kind of added on my favorite equalizer. I'm gonna turn it off today. I don't think it sounds so good. And then there's an auto pitch. It doesn't do a lot, but it does add a little help. So I can tell it that I am in the key of D. And if there's anything that's just slightly, it won't fix it, but if there's anything like slightly not good, it just gives it a little stabilization. Again, it's free, so it's not the best auto pitch in the world, but I do, if I know what key I'm gonna be in, I just apply the auto pitch. So go ahead and play that. I've muted my metronome now. Resurrection and the life. I'm happy with that. Now, I'll go ahead and delete melody 2. I'm not going to use it. Let's go add some harmony. Because it's for kids, I only sing melody the first time through, but on the second time through, I will add some harmonies. But with kids, I want to make sure that they hear that melody well the first time and aren't confused what the actual melody is. So again, this is for a kindergarten class. So I don't add harmony till that second track, which is probably coming up here. I'm just gonna hit play. In me will live. So I'm just waiting to find, it's almost at the end of that first time through. There's verse 25. Okay, so I'm gonna start my harmony here, and I make up my harmonies on the spot, and I just redo them until I come up with some kind of consistency. So I will record them multiple times. So here's me just coming up with harmony on the spot, starting at 58 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna hit the R button. So this is my harmony track. I've got it selected right here. Oh, you can't see the screen. Just hit record. This is the second time through. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the... Okay, I can do better again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the... Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection. I gotta figure that part out. Undo, record again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Maybe that's the best way. Undo, record again. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he... Okay, I screwed that up. I am resurrection and the life. That's where I need to start. He who believes. Delete, record. Believes in me will live even though he dies. Oops, do it again. Believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. Oh my goodness. Again. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11 11, verse 25. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. John 11, verse 25. Got it. Okay, so where's my bench? Now we're going to the same thing. I'm going to highlight that harmony. Here. So here's my harmony track. I click it here to highlight it. I'm going to Effect, Compression. Now there's Normalization, -17 again. This is the end of that harmony track. I'm going to go ahead and fade it out for a nice closure. Fade out. I'm going to the beginning of my harmony track. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and silence the entire beginning while I was standing here talking to you. I'm going to go in a nice fade in here. Effect, fade in. And then I'm going to line it up with my metronome. That looks good. Go ahead and add some effects. I like reverb. I'm going to do auto pitch. Tell it I'm in the key of D. I don't know what key it thought I was in. That was weird. And go ahead and play it back. I wish you could hear this part. Jesus said to her. Oh, see, this is where I started that new recording. You see that gap in my track there? I need to close the gap. That's where I kept redoing that one section. And I'm going to tell it to join these two clips because I don't want that gap there. So at that gap, my second part got slightly off the metronome, so I'm just going to take out a smidgen there, okay? Tifa. Ba-da-bum. Good. The vocals sound good to me. So next step is, okay, go ahead, save my work. Going back to the top, I'm going to delete that demo. I don't need it anymore. I keep the metronome. Never delete your metronomes. You never know when somebody's going to be like, can you send me that instrumental track with some drums added? And I'd be like, well, the original doesn't have drums, but I can add it. So now I had 8 beats of click at the beginning of the song. I'm going to go delete those. But there's a setting here in Audacity where I have to tell it to keep my tracks aligned so that when I go delete stuff, every track moves together. So we're scrolling over. It looks like I've got waves starting here. So I'm going to give it about 1 beat extra. Scroll all the way down, select home, delete. Now everything starts together. Save. Oops, I don't know what I clicked. Hit something special. Okay, home, start. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum. Okay. That sounds good to me. I know we faded out the end. Everything looks good. Everything checks out. Let's save this baby. So file, export. I always save to waves. Go edit my metadata. Load my kindergarten thing here. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. This is John 11 time. John 11, verse 25. This is NIV 84. On their CD is track 34. Go ahead and export that out. And that saves the wave. That's like a higher quality file. But another thing I do is through my DistroKid, who's my distributor, there's an add-on. So I saved my Audacity file. I closed out Audacity. I'm done with Audacity. I'm done with the chord chart. So I'm going to go ahead and save my chord chart. And I need to upload it to Dropbox. Oh, where did it go? I closed it out while I was talking. Jesus said to her. I like to double save everything. I have it on my computer and I also save it to my Dropbox. I think this is Dropbox here. Kindergarten, Isaac. I was already in Dropbox. That means I need to save it to my computer. Desktop, music, kindergarten, 2024, save. Okay, that's done. Closing out the text document. I send it to this little distribution thing called Mixia, and it will master the sound. It just makes it more radio ready. Again, not a super high-end program, but it sounds better than what I'm putting out. So I'm going to go ahead and send the file there. And it takes about 5 minutes for it to completely do everything. But I like to send waves because they're a little higher quality file. So you can see on my screen maybe. It's just uploading the file, and then it'll send another time through where it's just remastering it, and then I can kind of compare one to another. But when this is done, when the remastering process is done, dropping stuff everywhere, that's the file that I'll use if I submit to Spotify. I can download it as a WAV or an MP3. I always send an MP3 to the school because it's just a smaller file. The WAVs are quite big. And then when I throw it up on YouTube, the remastered file is the one that I'll finally use. And I will put, gosh, if you made it to the end, this was almost an hour. I will put in the YouTube description box of this video a link to the final and mastered version so that you can hear the whole thing. Actually, maybe I'll edit it onto this one. I think I could do some post-live mastering. And that's the gist of the file. So after this, I'm just waiting for it. It's uploading, and then it'll master, and then I just save it. That's all that's left. And then I make some picture slides with the lyrics, and that's how I upload my videos. But that's how I take a verse from start to finish. And hoping to do more lives more often for others who are wanting to songwrite but don't really know where to start. I do love Audacity. It's free. Audacity. It's not audacity.com. You have to look for the Audacity recording software. They did not score audacity.com. There was another program that owned that already. So, but I love it for PC. GarageBand would probably be the best equivalent, free for Mac users. I only have that on my phone, and I can't stand staring at a tiny screen all the time. So I have the PC version of Audacity. So stick around, hear the end of our final version that we worked on together.